Check out today's piece of fan art. Aww, it's an adorable chibi pic of Artoria hugging her wicked sister Morgan. The contrast between the sparkle in one's eye and the reluctance in the other communicates things so clearly. I can't wait to play this Lost Belt in English, even though that won't be for a while. Thank you so much, Kuragi Tutu. Welcome back to OtakuDaiKun. Dai here. The events in Fate Grand Order are a silly sort of thing, so much that it can be hard to take them seriously. Y'all talk about skipping through the game's cutscenes, and nothing makes me want to do that more than an overly goofy event. However, the game's miraculous summer events are an entirely different case. They're still just as silly as other events, but the swimsuit antics come with enough new design and production values to make them shine. Thanks to my $50 patron Mystic Samurai 1983, I've taken the time to cover all 4 of the currently released North American summer events with you all in a single video. We've got a lot to cover, but thankfully we're already familiar with most of the servants involved in these events. Now that our summer's basically over, let's send it off with some outrageous memories. The first summer event is split into 2 parts, Chaldea Summer Memory and Chaldea Heat Odyssey, both of which take place back-to-back during the time Ritsuka Fujimaru is still trying to resolve the singularities created by Gettia. Between them, Ritsuka investigates a smaller singularity detected by Chaldea, and after ray shifting, winds up stranded on a deserted island. Unable to contact Chaldea, Ritsuka has to team up with their servants to construct the various facilities they need to survive on the island, not knowing how long they'll be stranded. Their end goal is to construct a ship they can use to sail away from the island, but while they're at it, they might as well have fun and make things more comfortable. Ritsuka ray-shifted with a delightful ensemble comprised of Artoria, Mordred, Skahak, Tamamo, Marie Antoinette, Martha, Anne and Mary, Kiyohime, Kuholin, Dearmood, Finn McCool, Kojiro Sasaki, Karna, and unfortunately Blackbeard. Thankfully, Blackbeard doesn't last long. Needing someone to investigate the island's perimeter, Mary Reed promises him that if he swims out to sea with nothing but a log, she'll let him touch any part of her body once. Naturally, this motivates Blackbeard to rush into the water, confirm they're completely stranded, and return all bruised up and battered. On his deathbed, he gives his report and awaits his reward, only to be tricked when Mary goes in for a high five. This winds up counting as his one touch, and he's left to cherish it as he vanishes. The girls all decide to modify their saint origins, changing their classes while donning glorious swimwear. The men, however, accept their role as mere extras and remain as is to the detriment of fans hoping for some chiseled Chaldean boys. To be fair, Ku and Dearmood are already shirtless. Mashu, without changing classes, also gets a swimsuit. It's cute, but she does wind up wearing better. The party gets to work building various amenities, from shelter to pathways, evolving their small town to include things like a bathhouse, a ranch for raising farm animals, a field for growing crops, and even a monumental statue dedicated to the waifu of your choice. The girls each have their own ideas on what to build, and it's up to you to decide which designs to go with. The bulk of the event involves grinding for the resources to build these facilities, and as you go, you begin to learn there's more to this island than initially expected. There are some noteworthy highlights of the time spent on this island. For one, we get to see Artoria and Mordred interacting on a more casual basis. As expected, Mordred is constantly seeking Daddy's validation and approval, but Artoria won't dare dole out any praise for the young rebel. I'd love to see them get along, but at the same time their feuding is quite hilarious. Mordred's a lot more chill in her summer form, showing a cute side that she'll clobber you for pointing out. Squirtoria is still, in my opinion, the best single-target archer in the game, able to squirt multiple times in a row. Skahak is pretty much a survivor woman, always keeping a rational head and directing us on what innovations we need to prioritize. Martha clearly loves laying the beat down on her enemies, and despite her aggressive and violent personality, she insists on preaching moral righteousness. Tamamo uses this event as an opportunity to get closer to her beloved master, treating it like a honeymoon vacation. Marie Antoinette is overwhelmingly innocent and wholesome, finding it difficult to even fish because she feels bad for the little fishies. Anne and Mary are right in their element, using their talents as courageous pirates for hunting in the forest, while Kiyohime tries to offer her own body for food if Ritsuka gets hungry. Surprisingly, she doesn't seem totally threatened by all the other girls. The men, feeling left out of all the fun, decide to build their own village in secret. Truth is, the cause of this island singularity is a pack of demonic boars led by Toark Torith, a famous boar from Arthurian legend. In history, Toark Torith was a thief and murderer who was punished for his crimes by being transformed into a colossal demon boar. As one might expect, this only empowered his rampages, making them worse. When he began eating his way into Britain, Artoria Pendragon formed a hunting party that thwarted his violence and drove him out of the kingdom. As a result of Getia's incineration of humanity, an island broke off from the Land of Shadows, the Celtic underworld ruled over by Skahak. The singularity began to form when Toark Torith, still alive through the help of a holy grail, drifted onto this island and used his might to terrorize the land's natural inhabitants, a tribe of adorable boar piglets. We first meet these piglets when we catch them raiding our crops, and soon enough, we learn of their plight by encountering Toark's demon boars. When first investigating these boars, Diarmid and Finn McCool wind up being ambushed and killed, no doubt in reference to their encounter with a demon boar in life. Humiliated by his exile, Toark seeks revenge against Artoria. While he tries to ravage our newly built ship, we strike him down and watch as he's carried away by the ocean's tides. Eventually, it's time for our party to set out, saying farewell to the piglets before venturing into the unknown ocean. Our sense of time gets messed up at sea, and over the course of what seems like 3 days, the surviving men get lost overboard. Eventually, Ritsuka and the ladies spot land in the distance and go check it out. The event's second half has us navigating the ruins of a once great civilization, walking past destroyed modern cities. Not long after arriving do we realize that this is in fact the exact same island we just left, only now, over 2,000 years have gone by. The very statue we built before leaving can be found among the city ruins. Turns out, by liberating the piglets from the demon boars, we gave them an opportunity to develop and become more civilized. What was once a humble village became a thriving metropolis, and the piglets even learned how to speak. Sadly, however, they are once again being attacked by demon boars, hence why their society has crumbled. When we show up, these piglets both recognize and worship us as gods, hoping we can liberate them once more. Just like before, we are tasked with reconstructing the island, this time with more modern technology. Along the way, we rendezvous with our lost male servants, who were able to wash back up on the island. We also find other servants, such as Beowulf and Thomas Edison, the former planning to conquer the island for himself, and the latter helping the piglets develop their technology. Ultimately, we discover that Toark Torith survived our encounter years ago and has re-established dominance in a new body constructed of mechanical parts. Once and for all, we destroyed the Mecha Boar, truly liberating the piglets. With all the tech at our disposal, we construct a device to finally help us escape the island and return to Chaldea. To correct accidentally making the piglets intelligent, Skahak leaves behind a rune that makes them revert to their primitive state. Back at base, we learn that what felt like an eternity was less than an hour on Chaldea's end. A year passes, and in the midst of the Epic of Remnant chapters, another summer creeps in. This time, the star is Ishtar, who declares she has the perfect idea to make some wonderful summer memories in a celebration that all the servants can partake in, the Ishtar Cup. That's right, in a mix between pod racing and some Mad Max level shit, Ishtar will be hosting a highly dangerous and competitive race, pitting 6 servant-made vehicles against each other for a chance to claim glory. Well, at least this is how Ishtar pitches the idea. In truth, she's exceptionally bitter about how she was treated during the Babylonia singularity, specifically how she was branded a useless goddess after she admitted that, arguably her greatest asset, the divine bull of heaven Gugulana, was lost when we needed it most. It's actually a metafictional joke coming from the spin-off series Fate Strange Fake, in which Philia, an Einsburn homunculus possessed by Ishtar, summons Gugulana from another timeline. In this case, the FGO timeline. To prove she's not a useless goddess, our Ishtar secretly designs this race as a ritual to create a new Gugulana. Problem is, the Age of Gods is no more, so she has to essentially build this new one, Gugulana Mark II, from scratch. To do this, she took advantage of a singularity located in Connacht, which just so happens to be the kingdom of Queen Maeve. She plants in the singularity the texture of Venus, the planet she's a goddess of, and gives each of the 6 racing teams a piece of Gugulana's body. As they race about the course, they will be unknowingly carving a sigil into the land that, once complete, will reconstruct the Bull of Heaven that was previously lost. Ishtar lies to Ritska and the other servants, convincing them that the race is actually a creation of hers meant to erase the singularity while also having fun. She puts up flyers about Chaldea, which attracts the various teams that compete in the race. First up, we have Artoria Alter and Nero. Both of them stumble upon the advertisement and are reluctant to join until Ritska says they'd cheer for him. Excited, they immediately switch into swimwear and approach Da Vinci to construct their race car. Reluctantly, they join forces, only after learning that neither of them can participate on their own. Stubbornly, they both insist on being drivers, arguing that drivers get all the glory and credit, so their vehicle accommodates this odd request. While Nero's swimsuit is merely an extension of her fame as an emperor, Artoria Alter has put aside her kingship to experience the life of a maid. Then there's Fran. When changing into her swimsuit form, she goes from a berserker to a saber. This ditches her madness enhancement, allowing the normally grunty girl to finally speak coherently. Looking for a servant to join her team, she approaches Babbage because he was acquainted with her creator, Victor. Sadly, the two of them have no means of procuring a vehicle in time. When Moriarty shows up to give them advice, Fran asks for his aid, calling him Papa. Now, this triggers something in him, a sense of pride and joy he's never known before. Of course, Fran's just taking advantage of him. Totally obsessed by the idea of having a daughter, Moriarty goes all out, hypnotizing Babbage into believing he can transform into a steam locomotive. Our next team is the weirdest for sure. Raiko, despite having the biggest bosom of the bunch, acts out her role as a motherly figure by wanting to ensure that Chaldea's summer won't become a den of debauchery for Ritska. In other words, she tries to go censorship crazy, ironically not realizing her own sexual appeal. She transforms into her swimsuit, which is at first a sailor uniform, parodying the retro Japanese drama Tsukiban Deka, the same inspiration behind Matoi Ryuko in Kill la Kill. She makes it her mission to fight indecency, while appearing just as indecent as everyone else. Raiko steps out into the hall and finds Sanzang. While scolding the big titty monk for her exposed melons, Raiko presents such confidence and determination that Sanzang wants to see more. Thus, the prefects of public decency are born, entering the race with a horse-drawn carriage. Helena Blavatsky joins the race to vent her anger. You see, Ritska had a hard time believing Helena is actually an old lady, leading to her interpreting Ritska's doubt as being called a fraud. This is a major trigger for her, and she irrationally goes into a tirade about being seen as a fraud. In an attempt to cheer her up, both Edison and Tesla convince her to join them in the race. The two men harness their rivalry to design a formidable vehicle. Competition fuels innovation, after all. Now, a lot of Chaldea's Japanese servants find themselves residing near the facility's boiler room. More specifically, this is the home of the servants we meet from the Guda Guda events, including Nobunaga and Okita. Perhaps driven mad by the heat, Nobu declares she wants to be a rock star and hold her own summer festival. To look the part, she hastily spends all of their money to create a swimsuit for herself. Okita is especially pissed off, feeling that as a 5-star, she deserves a swimsuit before any of the welfare servants. Barely escaping Okita's wrath, Nobu encounters mysterious heroine X in the hallway, and the two join the race in hopes of fame and glory. For their vehicle, they choose to race in a spaceship on wheels. Guys, you may notice that some of the servants in these events weren't introduced to you through this Lore of FGO series. Given the sheer bulk of material I'm covering here, I won't be giving them all an aside. That said, many of these servants already have their own individual lore videos, so be sure to check my comprehensive list in the description and pinned comment if you want to know more about them. In the name of the pharaohs, our final team is led by Nitocris. Under Ozymandias' advice, she is to win the Ishtar Cup in order to prove her dominance, so that others will properly bow to her as a pharaoh. In other words, she's not aggressive or confident enough, and this shows by how her summer form is always hiding behind the cloaked image of Medjed, even though she herself is absolutely gorgeous underneath. That said, none of the other pharaohs have her confidence problem, and they see no point in entering the race. Desperate for a partner, Nitocris goes for the first servant who reveres the pharaohs that passes by, Scheherazade. Of course, Scheherazade is the most timid servant of them all, always trying to stay out of the way in hopes of not being killed. There's no way she'd participate in a deadly race, that is, without an incentive. Nitocris promises to use the prize, a holy grail, to create for her a talisman of protection, one that will take the hit in case she's ever killed. With all the teams assembled, it's time for the opening ceremony. Heroic Spirit Emiya makes a killing selling concession stand food, Georgios premieres as the event's photographer, and many other servants fill the stands with excitement. Ishtar's swimsuit form is rather unimpressive, covering way more than her default outfit ever did. She's not here to race, though. She's here to fool the other racers into completing her ritual. She divvies out Kugelana's pieces and tasks the racers with bringing these objects all the way to the finish line. While Chaldea itself is on board with this event, especially because Ishtar is funding it, not all of the servants are of the same mind. Maeve and her subordinates inhabit the land and will try to interfere with the race, so Ishtar asks Ritska to help support the racers in combat along the way. The racers take off from the starting line, with Nobu's team taking it too literally. They try to use their rocket to actually fly, but this is against the rules, so Ishtar strikes them down and issues a warning. The race itself is split into 4 areas, the first being a wide desert plain. It's filled to the brim with gangsters who live among the ruins a la Mad Max or Fist of the North Star. The racers take these guys out with no problem, accidentally inciting their boss, Atalante. She considers the gang her precious children and opens fire on the racers for daring to attack them. To provide for her children, she grows seed apples along the raceway and doesn't want the racers trampling on them. As such, Atalante has dotted the racetrack with landmines, and all of the racers approach this threat in different ways. Foolishly, when these mines explode, they destroy the seed apples with them. Oof. Nitocris and Scheherazade transform their vehicle into a walker mode that avoids the mines, allowing them to fight and defeat Atalante altogether. The next area is a volcanic crater. It's presided over by Boudica, who's royally pissed that last year she was only featured as a summer craft essence, and because she still isn't an official summer servant, she takes her anger out on the racers by attacking them from her chariot. She forces Nero's car into a game of chicken as they rush toward a cliff. Never intending to actually stop her chariot, she begins to fly into the volcano, but is saved by Nero and Maid Alter, who pull her aside at the last second. It's a kind gesture, but not enough to save Boudica from vanishing from their previous battles. Nobu and MHX crash into the volcano, causing it to erupt. Luckily, their machine can take the heat. The third area is a rift valley guarded over by Penthesilea, who's enraged, as usual, over the thought of being considered beautiful. Thank God she's not real, because I've gotta say, she's very beautiful, especially with those glorious abs and that minimal armor plating. She's beautiful, very beautiful, so beautiful. Please allow me to clarify that this doesn't make her any less of an amazing warrior. Rather than attacking the racers, however, she stands by as Da Vinci and some of Edison's automata judge the beauty of their cars. This accomplishes nothing, as Da Vinci declares all the vehicles beautiful in their own right. As such, it's up to the racers themselves to show off their beauty, many of whom dazzle the judges with more revealing ascensions. Nitocris, however, just doubles down on her Medjet cloak. Regardless, the girls don't take well to being scrutinized by a bunch of robots, and take to destroying them. This whole time, Penthesilea has been swimming down the river as training, not realizing how far she's pulled ahead of the other racers. Not wanting this to mean she's the most beautiful, she tries to force the racers to start over, causing a big fight that she ultimately loses. The final area of the race happens to be another valley, this time with hills in the shape of breasts. Fittingly, it's guarded by Artemis, who has made various copies of herself as increased firepower. The hills are adorned with various Orion copies, and Artemis demands that the racers return the real Orion to her if they hope to proceed. This provokes the Orion copies to start evaluating all the girls' chests, prompting Raiko to ascend and strike them down with lightning. Honestly, it's fucking stupid, so don't think too hard about it. The only obstacle left in their way is a single bridge, and as all the racers zip across, the bridge collapses, sending them to the bottom of a dark abyss where Maeve runs a high-security prison. With her Celtic warriors and servants like Lobo to assist her, she subdues the racers and locks them up to prevent the race from erasing her Connacht singularity. So that Ritska can communicate with their servants, Ishtar disperses herself into cute little chibis and encourages them to think of this as an extension of the race, seeing who can escape the prison first. Between the guards, a powerful barrier, and the complex underground structure of the prison, however, this proves difficult. They get aid from Gorgon, whose poisonous venom lets them dig deep enough to find Enkidu. Enkidu advises the racers on a way to assassinate Maeve. That is, to strike her with a piece of hardened cheese launched as a speeding projectile. You see, this mimics how she died in legend, giving the prisoners hope that this might just work. Sadly, it doesn't. Even though the cheese is fired off at Maeve while she's vulnerable in the shower, she senses it coming and aggressively kicks it out of the air before it can hit her. They are left with no choice but to keep digging until they come upon Yang Qing, who happens to be a master of disguise. We recruit him to pretend to be Maeve and fool the other guards for a chance at deactivating the prison's barrier. In the name of environmentalism, Yang Qing convinces the prison's warden, Quetzalcoatl, to reduce the barrier's range by half, completely disabling it underground. In truth, Ketz is no fool, and she's aware of what's going on. She too has a plan in mind. Regardless, the racers can now dig their way beyond the barrier's range into the surface. Topside were caught by Maeve and Quetzalcoatl, but at least now we stand a fighting chance and vanquish the two of them for a chance at freedom. That said, Quetzalcoatl isn't actually defeated. In exchange for lowering the barrier, Yanqing agreed to pretend to be Quetzalcoatl and lose the fight in order to make Ishtar think she died. With that lengthy diversion out of the way, it's time to finish the race. The winner was originally decided by raid-style farming, but in my eyes the winner will always be Nero and Maid Altar. That's not really important though. Ishtar's ritual is complete, and from a swirling vortex, she reveals her shrine, a massive ATM machine. Reassembling the parts she gave to the racers, she finally succeeds at summoning the Bull of Heaven. With all this power, Ishtar tries to get all of Chaldea to bow down before her, but is ultimately thwarted by a surprise attack from Quetzalcoatl, who also happens to be a goddess of Venus. Through lucha libre wrestling on a colossal scale, she transitions from a backdrop into a pile driver, smashing Gugalana Mark II into the shrine, destroying both the beast and ATM. Ishtar is once again forced to hold a plaque of shame. Despite this, Ritska assures her that even without Gugalana, she is still a powerful ally for Chaldea to have on their side, and so the Ishtar Cup ends on a happy note. The third summer event is what you get when you combine a manga convention with Groundhog Day. It all starts when our overly protective, Kohai-esque servant BB finds a method of preserving Ritska, keeping us away from the dangers and trauma brought on by the alien god and the Lost Belts. The idea is to seal Ritska in an endlessly looping singularity, much like how BB tried to protect Hakuno within a temporal loop in Fate Extra CCC. Of course, she doesn't ask for our permission, nor does she consider our feelings. She just goes ahead with the plan anyway. She got the idea when coming into contact with another of the Lovecraftian outer gods, Nyarlathotep, and gaining some of its power. With this power, she decided to create a singularity, Luluhawa, by combining the Hawaiian Islands and merging with the Hawaiian goddess Pele, the immortal incarnation of the island's volcanoes. Here, BB would have the authority to suspend the singularity in a repeating temporal loop. Chaldea sends Ritska to the singularity after detecting the presence of a foreigner-class servant. It is here that we're tricked into BB's plan, believing her when she tells us we need the power of the Holy Grail to resurrect Pele and resolve the singularity. She establishes a major event called Servantfest in Luluhawa that mirrors Japan's own Comiket. It's a gathering where different artists create and sell manga, and the booth with the highest sales numbers is rewarded a Holy Grail made from their collective passion. Ritska arrives at Honolulu International Airport with a group of servants consisting of Jean Alter, Ushiwakamaru, Ibaraki Doji, and Robin Hood. Fired up for the occasion, Jalter changes her spirit origin into a beautiful bikini-clad berserker with 3 katana. It's a bit chunibyo, but she's tapping into her inner otaku after being inspired by a manga she read back at Chaldea. Naively thinking that she can create an even better manga, she aims to draw a doujinshi for the festival as a rookie. Blackbeard is excited to see another servant enter the manga scene and tells us all we need to know about Servantfest. Unlike most of the servants who have come to Lulu Hawa to relax and enjoy the sun, we have a major goal in mind. It doesn't help that BB is threatening to turn Robin into a pig if we don't complete a book in time. Underestimating the difficulty of this task, we mainly spend our days leading up to the festival enjoying a nice vacation. We go to the hotel BB sets us up with and find Dr. Henry Jeckyll running the front desk and Mordred serving as staff. When Ibaraki finds out that Ushi Wakamaru prepared a swimsuit form, she gets jealous and runs off, throwing a tantrum. Before we can get settled in, we encounter what we believe is the foreigner servant we're looking for, Mysterious Heroine XX. This is basically just an older form of Mysterious Heroine X. In her own world, the Servantverse, she struggles to find employment and joins the Galaxy Police in order to hunt down foreigner-class servants as a cosmic sheriff. She's dispatched to Lulu Hawa to hunt the same foreigner we're looking for, but without enough information, she makes all of Servantfest her enemy. Thus, as soon as she arrives, she attacks and kills Hokusai before we can stop her. Clad in a mecha suit, she battles Ritsuka's party, but beneath that armored exterior is a stunning swimsuit of her own. We continue our vacation, with thoughts of the Lost Belt completely obscured. The Singularity is set in a time before we ever met Gordolf, so we encounter him as a total stranger. We scope out the beach, and while it's filled with many lovely ladies, it also features Maeve, who is more or less a celebrity around Servantfest. Her book, a photo album of her bikini shots, is expected to sell the most copies at the convention, and her army of simps is intimidating. To Jalter's disgust, her vanilla form is also on the island, making a manga with the help of Marie Antoinette. Our first doujin isn't anything spectacular, being printed via photocopies rather than from an actual printing service. We have a lot of fun at Servantfest, even though our book doesn't sell much, and we even get to work with all the other servants to repel another attack from MHXX. Completely unaware of the time loop, we close up shop and head to sleep expecting the Singularity to be over. We wake up back at the airport and are informed by BB that we'll have to keep trying over and over again until our manga finally sells the most. When Maeve wins the damn grail, she certainly isn't using it to liberate Lulu Hawa, so it's up to us to seize victory. Blackbeard informs us that our hotel room is right next to Osakabehime's room, and that we should seek her help if we want to improve our manga. Jalter approaches Osakabehime and shows her the manga that inspired her in the first place. Thankfully, Osakabehime is equally inspired and agrees to teach us what she knows. This second time around, we choose to ignore MHXX altogether, figuring we can just defeat her at the end of the week. As such, she kills Hokusai again. To cause more havoc, however, BB approaches Ibaraki and gives her a swimsuit form in exchange for rampaging the city at night. She doesn't wind up causing too much trouble, though. The next morning, Jalter runs into regular Jean, who insists on treating her like a sister. Heck, she treats Ritsuka the same way, which might even be worse than the friend zone. We eat together at the hotel cafeteria, where maid Alter works to procure as much food as she can eat. There, Jean introduces the other circles producing manga for Servantfest. While this information is helpful, it doesn't really improve our own manga. For that, we seek out someone who can officially print our book and find Gilgamesh, who's conducting business on Lulu Hawa under the name Gorgeous P. He's partnered with the Queen of Sheba, who goes by the name Moolah, because she likes making money. The two inform us that they can utilize void space to print copies even after the con is actually started. Nifty. We go back to the hotel and draw until we drop. For a change of pace, though, Jalter asks us to take a camera and go take photos of bikini girls as a reference. Specifically, she needs someone smug and selfish. Naturally, that would be Maeve, but she refuses to let us take photos, leading Mashu to try her best to act stuck up as a substitute. That night, we take a walk on the beach with Jalter and once again encounter Jean, who happens to be walking around with her dolphin companion Reese. She's mighty comfortable around that dolphin, if you catch my drift. On another break at the beach, Mashu, Ushiwakamaru, and other swimsuit servants compete against Maeve in a beauty contest. The judges are all Maeve's simps, however, so it winds up being a fixed event. Whatever. Mashu has fun, so it's all good. By the end of the week, we turn in our manga with ample time to be printed, and while it's an improvement from our first one, it too fails to outsell Maeve. For our third go-around, Jalter decides we need to expand our horizons and network with more servants. We recruit some more help, and the next morning, have another conversation with Jean. Jalter decides to show her the manga she found at Chaldea, initially thinking Jean had made it. Turns out this is not the case. Instead, Jean tells us that Edmond Dantes can be found mysteriously hanging around at night on the beach. When we find him, he's fighting against Ibaraki. We help fend her off, and Dantes tells us he's suspicious of BB's motive in all of this. The next day, we all take a break by having barbecue on the beach, pacifying Ibaraki's villainy through the temptation of delicious meat. Osakabehime helps with our manga until she's dragged off by Kiyohime to finish her own. For this loop, we compete against Maeve in a game of beach volleyball. During Servantfest, our fight against MHXX breaks her mecha armor, revealing who she truly is underneath. This gives us a new outlook for our fourth loop, considering our manga once again fails to beat Maeve. We have two main goals for this next iteration: to rescue Hokusai before she gets killed, and to have an actual conversation with MHXX. We arrive outside the hotel early to catch when MHXX tries to attack, and we successfully prevent her from taking out Hokusai. As thanks, Hokusai agrees to help draw our manga's backgrounds. This confrontation reveals that XX is also stuck in a temporal loop, and while we used to be allies, she has a job to do. Edmond Dantes thinks we can reason with her if we get help from Nobunaga, who was her partner during the previous summer. We convince Nobu to come along with us for our next MHXX encounter. We learn that she's not at all happy with her job, and that she's on a mission to hunt what the Galactic Police call Evil God Number 3. That night, Dantes discovers that MHXX has been camping around Mount Kilauea, subsisting off a limited supply of instant noodles that doesn't replenish with each loop. Embarrassed to be seen in such a state, she fights us, but ultimately comes around when we confess we're actually here to offer her a better job. Turns out, Ritsuka's able to offer superior perks than the Galactic Police, and so MHXX joins us rather easily. With that settled, we still have to finish this week's manga. We have more help than ever before, but Jalter gets some last-minute inspiration that will require more work than estimated. To muster up the conviction needed to change her story's ending, Jalter steps outside looking for a fight. Mordred is happy to oblige, but she's not allowed to leave her post at the hotel. Instead, Jalter steps outside and fights against John, Osakabehime, and Hokusai, all of whom agree to help with the last-minute changes when beaten. Knowing we've got something great in our hands, we work our asses off all through the night, creating a dramatic manga about a monster and princess falling in love and struggling with their differences. Jalter downs so many energy drinks that she throws up over the hotel balcony. Her puke lands on Lu Bu of all people, causing a late-night brawl to settle the accident. After an all-nighter, the manga is complete. Now we just have to get it to the Queen of Sheba for printing. Too bad Maeve's Celtic soldiers are trying to block our way. Coming to our aid, though, Astolfo and Kintoki offer to rush us to the venue. Ibaraki helps hold the enemy off so we can make our escape. Before Moolah complies with the same-day delivery, Gorgeous P looks over our manga and gives it his stamp of approval. Sure enough, our book sells like crazy, beating Maeve's sales and landing us the Servantfest Holy Grail. That said, we're no longer so keen to believe in what BB told us. Pele is supposed to reside at Mount Kilauea, but according to Dantes, BB never once went there. Instead, she asked the group to meet her at Mauna Kea, the one place Pele could never conquer. We suspect there's more to BB than just being fused with Pele, and sure enough, we confirm that she is in fact the foreigner servant we've been searching for. Had Ritsuka wished on the Grail at Kilauea, that wish would have been distorted to keep the time loop going. Instead, we've discovered BB's true form as one who's synchronized with an outer god. In order to defend her precious singularity, BB ascends as a summary devil and fights Ritsuka in an attempt to force us to the start of the time loop. Our final battle concludes when mysterious heroine XX uses her Rongominyad to strike BB and purge her of Nyarlathotep. As BB goes with XX to serve time in space jail, Jalter realizes that the manga that inspired her to partake in Servantfest was in fact her own book from the future. BB had snuck it back in time and planted it as a sort of predestination paradox. This is the end of the event proper, but it also features an epilogue where BB tries to keep us in the singularity until we defeat copies of herself that are preventing her from returning Pele to Kilauea. Similar to Ishtar, we're willing to forgive BB's antics, considering we had so much fun in Hawaii. Finally, we return to Chaldea, and the singularity is resolved. Now, there is one last summer event to discuss in this video, and that's Summer 4, the Las Vegas Official Bout. It's a combat tournament pitting swimsuit sword beauties against each other to decide the ultimate swordmaster. We couldn't have an event like this without our delightful wanderer, Miyamoto Musashi, and in fact, we can actually say that this whole event is her fault. You see, as part of her travels, Musashi found herself in an uninhabited Nevada by the Grand Canyon. Broke, hungry, and without mana, she was desperate for some energy. She had some dry rice and udon flour to eat, but no means of cooking it. By some miracle, however, she came across a holy grail, and rather than using it to replenish her mana directly, she decided to use it as a pot to cook her rice. It tasted amazing, so she proceeded to make udon in it. While doing so, the Grail reacted to Musashi's association with Buddhism, separating it from her spirit origin as a heavenly demon. It stole her skills as a saber servant, leaving her to become a berserker. Guilty about unleashing this demon on the world, Musashi went to Merlin and begged him for help. Merlin decided it would be best to seal the demon, and so he brought Lancer Artoria along, now in her swimsuit ruler form, to construct an imitation Las Vegas that would serve as the demon's seal. In order to actually slay this demon, they would need a powerful saber-class servant. And so the swimsuit swordmaster competition was established in the city as a means of preparing the perfect opponent. The ideal candidate to take on this challenge, oddly enough, happens to be Hokusai, who on a whim decides to change her spirit origin into a swimsuit saber for the summer. Thus, when we ray-shift to the singularity of dazzling Las Vegas, Musashi comes to us pretending to be her apprentice Miyamoto Iori. Musashi becomes inspired by Hokusai's fledgling spirit and encourages her to fight her way through the 6 major casinos, each run by a different swimsuit sword beauty. None of the other sword beauties are sabers, and most don't even use swords. Either way, winning this competition isn't as simple as just walking up to the casino leaders and challenging them to a fight. To have an official bout, challengers must procure a formal letter of challenge, which means we have to gamble in the casinos until we can afford them. Hokusai learns this the hard way when she tries to attack Artoria, the Summer Lion King, master of the 6th and greatest casino. Without a letter of challenge, she can't even hurt Artoria. Instead, Hokusai starts her journey by dueling Musashi, learning that she's going to have to work from the ground up. The lowest ranked casino is the Himeji Casino run by Summer Osakabehime. She's using the casino as an opportunity to fight opponents Battle Royale style, ignoring her upcoming manga deadline for an exciting shootout. With a party consisting of Mashu, Musashi, Hokusai, and Summer Siegfried, we check out the casino and spectate on one of Osakabehime's matches. For whatever reason, Merlin is running around calling himself Mr. Mystery. He tells us we can find lodging at a place called the Gildelay Hotel. Judging by its golden exterior, it's obvious that Gilgamesh runs the place. He fired the Queen of Sheba for having a gambling addiction, and now has the Prince of Lanling as his secretary. We duel him in exchange for a voucher that lets us stay at the hotel for free. Charlotte Corday runs the front desk, and when we reach our suite, we rendezvous with Summer Kotaro, who's thrilled to have such a stylish new outfit. Together, we strategize how to take down the Himeji Casino. The match is a survival battle against Osakabehime and her team consisting of Ann and Mary, Blackbeard, and Mecha Elizabeth Bathory Mark II. To compete, we need a larger team, and we fill that role by recruiting Helena Blavatsky. Kotaro warns us that the enemy team is cheating, hiding Mary Reed's presence to conduct surprise attacks. We eventually obtain our letter of challenge, and during the fight, Ritsuka is used as bait to trick Ann and Mary. The 2 girls, each wanting to capitalize on Ritsuka's affection, expose themselves in the open, allowing the party to take them down. As a throwback to Osakabehime's introductory event, she utilizes Mecha Ellie to erect Jete Pyramid Himeji Castle, giving her a home advantage. When we still prove to be formidable, she tries to steal the high ground by having Mecha Ellie fly her into the air. To counter this, our team pulls off an Advent Children stunt, with each member tossing Hokusai into the air to land a winning strike. We claim victory, and Osakabehime is forced to go back to making her manga. The next casino is run by Nitocris, and is totally Medjed-themed. Only the extremely rich can get in, and we only do so because Ishtar lets us in on her collateral. The inside is guarded by Cleopatra and Scheherazade, who command heavy security alongside an army of Medjed drones. The letter of challenge was a casino prize, but since it was recently purchased, we have no way of challenging Nitocris. XXI jumps the gun and tries to fight anyway, only for us to get chased out and attacked by security. We're rescued at the last minute by Summer Carmilla, who gives us a ride in her bitchin' convertible. She's running around Las Vegas as a phantom thief called Mistress C, abusing her role by tossing calling cards out for every little occasion. Back at the hotel, we learn that Ishtar was the one who purchased the challenge letter, and she's willing to part with it if Carmilla and our party can steal a gem called the Eye of Medjed from the casino. It belongs to Ishtar, but she lost it in the casino, and Nitocris claimed it as her own. Thus, we form a new crew for an Ocean-style heist. We recruit various socialites, such as Yume Ren and Skahak. Carmilla hires Vlad III to create Medjed disguises that we wear after gaining entry to the casino proper. Yu uses her noble phantasm, Eternal Lament, to self-destruct, scaring the shit out of Scheherazade, distracting her so we can put her to sleep. Skahak, in turn, distracts Cleopatra by challenging her to a beauty contest, implying that her beloved Caesar is watching. This leaves XXI and Carmilla free to sneak into the casino's vault, which is guarded by a network of high-temperature lasers. Brave, or perhaps naive, XXI contorts her way through the lasers and procures the jewel. Having earned a letter of challenge, we pick a fight with Nitocris, who sicks Ganesha, Ivan the Terrible, and Darius III on us. Carmilla got paid for her work, so she left us after the heist, but decides to come back and help us for the battle. Together, we fight our way to Nitocris, who loses to XXI's swordsmanship. The third casino belongs to Meltralis, who goes by the name Lambda in her summer form. Her casino features a water performance that she stars in, and rather deviously, she uses the spectators as a source of experience. She's leveling up by melting the innocent people who see her show and throw away all their money. At first, we attack her paparazzi style, which obviously doesn't work, prompting Passion Lip to question our methods. Lip also wants to take Meltralis down a notch, but fears we're too weak for the task. She kidnaps Carmilla, Osakabehime, and Kotaro as a test of our might. When we succeed in rescuing them, Lip agrees to join us as we infiltrate the casino. Just like the other patrons, our experience points are converted into casino tokens, so we have to be careful not to go broke. During Melt's show, we try to stop her from victimizing the audience, but find ourselves captured by King Protea, whose giant wave of water washes us into an underground factory. We learn that Meltralis uses the people she melts at her casino as slaves to build her empire. With enough experience, she aims to conquer all of Las Vegas herself, selling adorable figurines made through slave labor. To escape the factory, we need to get past King Protea, and thankfully we make it through when Passion Lip breaks into the factory and totally trashes it for us. This depletes Melt's stash of EXP, allowing us to defeat her on the casino's grand stage. Accepting her loss, Melt joins our cause. The fourth casino is a bit of a Gouda fest. Demon King Nobunaga rules over the casino with her minions, the swimsuit daimyo. Turns out, though, none of that matters, because before we get to challenge any of them to a formal bout, they are all wiped out by Summer Okita, who soars about Las Vegas with a jetpack. You see, Okita finally got her swimsuit form this year, and while whimsically celebrating her new outfit, she collided with mysterious heroine XX in Caldea's hallway. XX thought the collision had killed Okita, and to avoid such a tragedy, she brought Okita to the Servantverse and operated on her. In this new jetpack form, Okita is alive again, but is told that her life support engine will only last for 3 days. As such, she's on a rampage, trying to defeat all the sword beauties in record time so that she can use the Holy Grail to fix her lifespan. After Okita totally destroys Nobu's casino, XXI defeats her just 10 minutes before her lifespan is set to expire. Ritsuka spends these last moments with Okita, only to find out from MHXX that she read the instruction manual wrong, failing to account for the time conversion on Earth. In truth, Jetpack Okita has 800 years to live, rendering this entire drama pointless. As a courtesy toward poor Okita, however, XXI promises to use the Holy Grail to return her to normal without the jetpack and bizarre life support system she never needed in the first place. The fifth casino belongs to Jeanne d'Arc, who uses it to put on theater performances. After watching one of her troops' plays, we go to meet Jeanne in person, only to encounter her new aquatic friend, a giant, floating, talking shark named Reese XP. Turns out that flying sharks are enough to scare even the greatest heroes of human history, because we immediately run away to Jeanne's disappointment. After a moment to regain our courage, we return to Jeanne for a battle, but she's still adamant about treating Ritsuka like a sibling. She sabotages our attack with a sister beam that hypnotizes Ritsuka into seeing Jeanne as a big sister. We make yet another strategic retreat, accidentally walking into the middle of one of the casino's plays. We play along, improvising so as to not ruin the show. Back at the hotel, we strategize how to get around Jeanne's sister beam, and Merlin advises us to override Jeanne's brainwashing with a different familial connection. In other words, we can recruit a motherly figure to drown out the whole sister thing. The ideal candidate happens to be Raiko, but in her summer form she's more interested in fighting indecency than being a mother to Ritsuka. We recruit Kintoki and Tamamo no Mae, who help us manipulate Raiko into realizing it's better to aid us in fighting Jeanne than let Ritsuka and Tamamo go do scandalous shit in Las Vegas together. We return to fight Jeanne, this time on the theater stage in front of everyone. Just when Jeanne tries to use the sister beam, Raiko steps in and asserts that because she is Ritsuka's mother, Jeanne cannot be Ritsuka's sister. Raiko fights with a myriad of mother-themed attacks, ultimately launching Reese XP in a literal sharknado. Defenseless, Jeanne is defeated by Hokusai's assault. Unless incest is your thing, this is how it should be. Now, there's just one final casino remaining, Casino Camelot. In order to fight the Summer Lion King, we first have to go through her open-shirted Aloha Knights of the Round Table, Lancelot, Tristan, and Gawain. The other knights like Gareth, Mordred, and Bedivere work at the casino as waiters and dealers. Moriarty is there as a bartender, like usual, and uses his influence to have Sherlock kicked out for smoking. We realize we can use the other staff members to our advantage. Moriarty, for instance, is more than raring to cause mischief for us, scheming a way to take down the Aloha Knights. In exchange, we pay him enough casino chips that he thinks he'll be able to buy his way into Fran's heart. Mordred's also totally stoked for a rebellion, and surprisingly, Gareth is also wanting to challenge Artoria as a way to bring her back to her usual self. Lastly, we recruit the aid of Skahak Skadi after freeing her from an obligation to give Maeve a tour of the city. These recruits, along with Moriarty's scheming, allow us to isolate and take advantage of each knight's weakness. First up is Tristan, who happens to be weak against married women, a trait imbued upon him for his love for Isolde. Lancelot is weak against Gareth because he bears the guilt of having killed her in life. In his attempt to rescue Guinevere, he struck down both Gareth and Gaheris, and he hesitates to do so again as a servant. To defeat Gawain and his Excalibur Galatine, Moriarty managed to recruit none other than the male King Arthur, turning this into a battle of holy swords. With the 3 Aloha Knights vanquished, Artoria appears to give us the fight we deserve. In the casino courtyard, Hokusai gives it her all, defeating the Summer Lion King in a remarkable show of determination that shows just how far she's come. Expecting the Holy Grail as a prize, we are shocked to discover that Artoria doesn't have it. Now that we have a formidable saber, however, Merlin and Musashi decide to reveal the truth of dazzling Las Vegas, that it's actually a seal to keep the heavenly demon Musashi at bay until she can be defeated. The city fades, revealing the Grand Canyon and the demon kept within. Musashi gives up the charade of being an apprentice, and genuinely asks Hokusai for her help. The two of them battle the heavenly demon, and Hokusai weakens it to the point where Musashi can land a finishing blow from her noble phantasm, Ganryujima. Landing this strike, Musashi defeats and reabsorbs her Buddhist association, freeing it from the Grail. The singularity vanishes, and back at Chaldea, Musashi gets scolded for recklessly using the Grail as a cooking pot. After a flood of apologies, we decide to forgive her, and we part on amicable terms as she goes off to continue her adventures. Hokusai returns to her regular form, embarrassed by how childish her saber form had acted. Inspired by Musashi, Hokusai draws a portrait of her looking all sad from her mistake. Aww. As a final cherry on top, it seems both forms of Hokusai wind up manifesting as independent servants, so that we can carry on the summer memories for any upcoming fights. I warned y'all that this was going to be silly, but seeing as it's summer with lots of alluring swimwear, it's a special kind of silly. So far in Japan, FGO has 2 more summer events, and if things stay popular like they've been, I'll be sure to cover them as well. There was a ton to cover here, and there are still fun scenes littered throughout these events that I couldn't incorporate into the big picture. If those interest you, don't forget that I've live-streamed all 4 of these events in full. Again, for any of the servants this video mentions that weren't introduced in this lore series, be sure to check out the links provided in the description and pinned comment, as they contain individual servant lores for you all to enjoy. Thanks for watching!
If you enjoy this channel, help us grow by liking, commenting, sharing the video, subscribing to OtakuDaiKun, and
most of all, smashing that notification bell so you don't miss out on all of our anime discussion, lore, or Let's Play content.
You can support us directly through Patreon, Subscribestar, or our YouTube membership, all of which come with benefits like exclusive vids and early access.
As always,
celebrate your fandom!